This is a quick follow-up video to the first part I did on getting the data out of using the Tesla APIs, the unofficial Tesla APIs, to grab solar and Powerwall data. And I played around a little bit more, and I was able to recreate a lot more data, playing with a lot more endpoints. So I wanted to share that in this video. And so previously, I had written some of the data to Google Sheet and to InfluxDB in a Grafana uh, you know, in a visualization. So I'm still doing that, but I found that it was better to separate out a little bit differently. So what I've done here is I've written the time, what I call the time of use data, into Google Sheet. So and the part of the reason is because the calculations are a little bit easier to do in a spreadsheet than doing it in Grafana. You can still do it, but it's just a lot more difficult. And so, it's broken down into sort of the same chunks you'll see in the app. So when you go in the app, you can see it has these, for the different days and the periods, day, month, week, whatever. You can pick all day, peak, off peak, partial peak, right? So you can see that information sort of broken down. And there's actually an API that does that for you, which is how they do it. And so when I write it into the spreadsheet, you can see here I have it broken down. This is similar to the previous video where I had it, these are all the attributes it gives you from the way it breaks down the data, and I have it grouped and color coded so it's a little easier view. So I have the all day view, which is in the app, that's this version, and then I can use the API to get the same export but filtered essentially by off peak, partial peak, and peak times, right? This is assuming you do have a time of use set up, which I do. And so that's what gives you this view, this different measurements as you kind of click through these different filters under this card in the mobile app. And so then you could do a bunch of things with that, right? You can see how much of your solar is produced during off peak or partial peak, and that time period. There's this calculation called offset, which is how much of your solar is used to offset your home usage, and you can see that in this card here, right? So this offset here, how it's calculated. This was just another version when you slide it over that shows you, right, the different off-peak, different time of use. And so that just mimics this. And then, so I can recreate the offset, right, which is this right here. So if you actually look, this is from yesterday, which is May 17th. So if you scroll down here, offset May 17th, that is exactly 808%, which is what this says, right? And then, on these ones, I did a similar thing. You can use the calculations from this half here, and you can do a bunch of calculations here. So you can see here for self-power all day, it breaks it up between solar and Powerwall, right? So if you look at the app, between solar and Powerwall. So this says for yesterday, 36% solar, 55% Powerwall, for a total of 91%. So if I scroll down here, 36%, 55%, 91%. So exactly the same. So that's how they get the numbers. And then, if you look at off-peak, right? So in off-peak, they were doing 80% solar, 0% Powerwall, for a total of 80. So if I go to off-peak here and open that up, right? 80% solar, 0% Powerwall, 80% total. So exactly the same calculations, and on and on and on. So you can follow the same pattern. So that's how you can recreate some of these cards, and how I do it. If you look in here, what I did was in the so I separated out this section where I wrote the summary data. This is all just for Grafana, and then down here I created a section just dedicated to the Google Sheet, and this writes it. And the reason why it's so long is because I needed to print out in an exact order. The database, you can put it in JSON, it'll query it based on the tags, but in the spreadsheet, it has to be a very specific order. So that's why it's much longer. So you can print it out here. And the base function here in the API I'll show you is actually the endpoint's called calendar history, which you can use to get all the the entire day's worth of data. But you add one little attribute and it'll break it down, right? So in this time of use history, in this endpoint called calendar history, you can say kind equals time of use energy, and then you give it the period, which is generally day, and then I give it the previous day's period. You do have to watch out because this has to be given in UTC format. So if you're in the Pacific time zone like I am, it's actually the day is +1. So it's kind of confusing. You have to figure that out. But it's just know that you have to pass in UTC. It gives it back to you in your time zone. And so this gives you essentially 3 sets of data. It gives you off-peak, partial peak, and peak in the same format as the all-day format, which gives you all those breakdowns: consumption, grid, solar, Powerwall, that kind of thing. So this is the function. This is the endpoint that gets you that breakdown by using kind equals time of use energy, and then you get the response back from that. And then I played around a little bit more with the Grafana. So obviously, with all the data that I put into Grafana, this is the detail view, right? So this is from for many days ago. You can obviously make it look down to any sort of time frame, 1 day, 7 days, whatever. And you can do totals here. This is total from April. You get charts. It's kind of quite nice. You don't have to open the app to do that. You get it in the app too, but this gives you some freedom to do other stuff. You can look at how much you import, export out of Powerwall, how much you get out of the grid. So that's interesting. And then so this is actually imported in from previous day, and it's sort of saved in those 5-minute increments, as I pointed out in the previous video. And then what I also do, because this is loaded once a day for the previous day, I also wanted to be able to put on a tablet, I think I mentioned this, real-time data. So I write every 5 minutes using a live status, and you can get here sort of this is the current production, and if you look in the app, it's actually quite close. My Powerwall percentage use, and then I can actually put an alert here. So if it drops, below 50%, it can send me an alert saying, hey, your state of charge is low. You can do a bunch of stuff with that. And the only card, and so that, this charts are also in one of the cards in the app. The only card I couldn't recreate was this one, which has the solar value. I got pretty close. So this calculates essentially how much your saving is. I think based on the information they give you in terms of what rate plans you can choose, it's really just the California area. And it sounds like from the notes, they'll roll it out to other utilities in the future. But I was able to get part of it to work. And so it's an endpoint called Savings Forecast. I got the tariff rate. You can run this other endpoint to get the tariff rate, and mine is called PG&E EV2A. So I got it working up to this point, the period, tariff, start and end date, but it's missing some parameters. So when I figure it out, I'll post another video. But so far, I can't really get that fully to work yet. As usual, if you found this useful, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, you want any help, feel free to leave me a comment. I'd be happy to try to help you out. Thanks.